Have you ever wondered what my take was on the top 10 worst boss runbacks in the Soul series? Probably not, but nonetheless, I'll be ranking my top 10 worst boss runbacks throughout the Soul series. First off, I would greatly appreciate a like and perhaps a subscription, and let's get into the video. You already know we had to start off with some honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is the Smelter Demon, the regular one that you'd find in Iron Keep. This is a pretty annoying boss runback because it's not too terribly long, but it's a hard boss fight and you have to kill all the enemies there. This boss fight, you'll probably die on your first playthrough at least 10 times. And having to go back and keep killing those enemies is such a nuisance, especially because if you try to run past them, since there is no invincibility while running through fog walls, they will just stab you in the back and kill you. And your best bet really for this fight is just to clear out the enemies till they stop respawning, because at the end of the day, they really just drain out all your materials before the fight. And the second honorable mention is Nito, back in Dark Souls Remastered. This is a not too terribly hard boss run back, but it's so long and tedious. First off, 90% of the area is pitch black, so you either can't be wearing a shield and have to use a flashlight instead, or have to have that helmet or some spell or something. It's such a long boss run back too. You're going through it feels like you're going through several different areas, and the last one being ganked by tons of mini skeletons while getting shot at by tons of pinwheels. Especially since it's a hard boss fight too, you're probably going to end up doing this run back a couple of times. And the number 10 spot is the Sir Alone boss fight run back from DS2. Now these are one of those fights where yes, you're going to probably die a lot, so you're going to have to do this run back again, and the enemies don't despawn since it is a memory, I think, at least. Now this run back is not as bad as it seems. After all these videos I've watched about rankings, they always put it like top 3, but it does look a lot worse than it is. These are one of those run backs where it goes absolutely smooth, takes you about 30 seconds to get through there clearly, but if you get hit once, you're going to get raped several times. So you're full sprinting through the whole thing, dodging corners, dodging fire bombs. If you happen to get shot, thrown back, you will probably get raped, which maybe you're into, who knows. Now, in the number 9th spot, I think this is kind of an underrated one for how hard it is, and that is the Seek the Scaleless boss fight. Now, I think this is kind of underestimated, not talked about too much, because Seek the Scaleless is a pretty easy boss fight once you know what you're doing. But this fight is this run back is absolutely tedious. Not only are you running for about 3 minutes, you're dodging enemies and clams and walking over invisible bridges while you're at it. This just feels like you're going through several different areas, and it feels like it takes way longer than it does. And having to run through enemies while going through invisible bridges is such a pain in the ass. Luckily, it would be much higher, but this boss fight is pretty easy. Now, in the number 8th spot is another Dark Souls 2 boss, which is Executioner's Chariot. Now, in hindsight, this wouldn't seem like such a bad, long, or far run back, but it's just the enemies. There's about 6 or something cowboys that drop down from above you, and they will absolutely fucking rape you. And you see me stuttering right there? That's my PTSD from these guys. They will all jump at you at the same time. The only way to get them to not do that is to slowly inch forward while one of them drops down and attacks you. And this whole process takes like 7 minutes every single time you want to do it. Not only that, once you cross past the bridge, which there's tons of holes that you can just fall through, there's enemies that crawl up from behind and knock you off. And after putting all that aside, there's the hardest red phantom you've ever seen in your life guarding the boss fog. And it's a pretty fucking hard boss fight too. Now for number 7, this is kind of interchangeable with number 8 and 7. They're kind of the same difficulty in my perspective. But this is the Ancient Dragon. And the only reason it's like that annoying of a boss run is those little dragon enemies will attack you if you don't finish off and kill every single one of those big guardians. You could just run past them, which is pretty easy, but then the dragons will be on your ass, and that'll be very annoying for opening doors and running past that giant long hallway. They even follow you into the boss arena. Now, the next bad thing about this is how long the run is. This is one of those Seek the Scale, not to the same extent as Seek the Scales, but this run back is so long, and the one thing different about it is the boss here is so damn hard. It'll take you a lot of tries to do. Now for number 6, which I think is the most underratedly annoying boss run back in the game, is the Seaman of Dong. Now off the top of my head, when I was thinking of this list, I just couldn't think of this boss fight until I revisited and thought about every boss fight I've ever done. And man, was this run back so annoying. It's not long, it doesn't seem tedious while you're at it, but if you really think about it, damn, this shit was hard. You run in, there's a giant circle with tons of mages and knights fucking you, and you're slowed down because of how deep the water is. So you can't just run past them, and you can't really fight them either. Because while you're fighting the knights, the sorcerers will be fucking shooting you and raping you from every single direction. And not only that, if you happen to like skim across without falling in the water and not aggravating some of them, they'll be the most fucking annoying invaders spawn and start butt, booty, let's just say they'll tickle your insides. And for the number 5th spot, Old Hero takes that cake. This is by far the longest run backs yet. This is like somewhere like around 3 to 4 minutes. And the enemies here are just relentless and ruthless, between those skeletons down to those laser shooting motherfuckers. I mean, that's practically the extent of this boss run back. Besides, you kind of have to kill the enemies every now and then because they're kind of blocking off paths and there's some narrow legend, but that's about it. Now, in the number 4th spot is the Dark Souls 2 DLC Gank boss. I don't know their full name, I'm not saying it. Now, there's no hard enemies blocking it. There's no huge distance that you have to run to get here, but it's kind of a maze, and that is the last thing you want to do when trying to go to a boss fight. I get having a special little maze to get to a bonfire, but having to do this maze every single time to fight this boss is absolutely excruciating. Considering you're in water, there's these things shooting poison at you, so you don't really know where you're going, and there's regular enemies too. It's just overall super confusing and so unnecessary. I have vivid memories of going back and forth in circles, dropping, not knowing where to go for about 20 minutes before I found this boss fight my first time. Overall, this run back is not so fun. Now we're in the top 3, and taking that number 3rd spot is the run back to the Blue Smelter Demon. And ooh-wee, this run back gets on my nerves. There's, I think, 3 layers. You drop, you run, you drop, you run 3 times. And not only is it kind of long, there's a lot of enemies, there was also archers, and there was also mages. So, while you have to try to navigate through the enemies and drop down, there's going to be archers shooting at you. And while that's happening, there's going to be a mage shooting lightning spells and slowing you down, which is, like, it seems impossible. It's not as bad as it seems, but it's still very annoying. In the last stage, there's a giant nugget-wielding fucking warrior blocking everything while fucking dealing with mages and stuff. The only not too bad part about this is the Blue Smelter Demon isn't too hard. Like, you've already fought a variant of him, and this late in the game, he's not that big of a deal. In the number 2nd spot is the run back to the Dark Lurker. Now, I don't think a lot of people know how this run back kind of works, so I'm going to explain it. There's 3 different dark areas, and you have to beat 2, and on the last one, it could be any one of the 3, so it just depends what order you go in. In the last one, you have to clear that area and fight the boss. The only annoying part about this is that each time you die, you have to drop a humanity to the old man to get back in there. And not only do you have to do that, you have to go through the entire area and kill all the enemies. You can't just run past them, navigate through the like sharp ledges and fucking abyss. You have to go through and kill every single enemy till that torch lights, and then go fight the boss. And not only that, this is the hardest boss in the game. So you're going to be dying a lot, you're going to be getting lost a lot, you're going to be dying to the enemies a lot, because you have to do all this in order to just fight the boss. And these aren't just little spots where you kill 3 enemies and fight the boss. These are relatively decent sized areas where we'll be fighting tons of NPCs and just enemies. Now, the difficulty and annoyingness of this run back kind of depends on which order you go, but overall it's still pretty confusing and annoying. Now, for the number 1 spot, the by far worst run back throughout the Soul series. I think you guys can take this out of my mouth. You can take the words out of my mouth right here. And that is the Dark Souls 2 Snowy Area boss run back. This is just absolutely tedious. Like, what was the point of even doing this? They made the by far worst area throughout the Soul series just to add a horrific fucking boss run back at the end of it. Now, if you guys never done this run back, I'll paint the picture for you. It's a huge snowy area that is confusing. You don't know really where to go, and especially because there's these snowstorms that pass over every 20 fucking seconds that blind you for a whole minute. You can't see anything. You have no clue where you're going. You don't have no clue if you're walking backwards, forwards, left, or right. And then every single time this happens, some snow reindeer come out and start fucking you up. Right up the butt, pegging you, who knows. And after all this, once you spend about 20 minutes to get to the boss fight, you are greeted with a gank boss fight that's slowly replenished in health. And that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you're new, make sure to like and subscribe, even if you're not new. And bye.